having said yes to this project in '95, with the script in pretty good shape, it seemed, Jim wasn't available for a year. He was just booked up. Well, that was a great accidental happening because we really worked hard to get the script into the shape that I finally shot. And we did, 16 drafts or something. And were able to explore all kinds of avenues. I wanted the logic of the piece absolutely watertight. I wanted to have thought of every question that an audience might ask, because I knew that if we didn't answer them, even in small details, then it would open a crack in the piece and it would say it couldn't happen. And that's what those exhaustive drafts did, and that therefore when you watch the film, pretty much everything is covered so that you suspend disbelief, as you have to do in a film, and you believe this could happen. And at the same time, I did things like I wrote a background to Christoph. I said to Andrew, do you mind, I'm going to really invent this guy's background for myself. And so I wrote a 10-page piece about him and where he came from and documentary background, and he'd won an Academy Award for a piece he'd done on the homeless, in which he'd put some cameras in a kind of crash pad and filmed homeless people, and that made it plausible. And initially the Truman Show was only to be about a baby, and they were going to do 1 year of its life, which seemed more logical, and sell baby products. So they only built a nursery and they hired a mum, and you would see the kind of products for sale there, the powders and oils and things for the baby and baby food. It was so successful, they decided to add a father to it, so they built a garage. And so the father could come and go from the nursery to the garage, and in there would be, his car and the rakes and tools and so they developed a little husband and wife story going and went for another year. And then Christoph presented them with the big plan, which was to go from cradle to grave, a whole life, and build not just a house, but a town. And then I went into the details of how he raised finance. I had advisors telling me how you would do this and get money from here. The Japanese loved the idea right off, and so I was making it plausible for myself.
Peter has a way of taking a little back. He doesn't try to sell you all at one time. He tries to do it in bits and pieces. And as a result, he gets a lot of big results. It's a story that you've got to believe it.
He wrote an enormous amount for all of us, and the thing that was the most helpful to me was not only Peter, but his wife, Wendy Stites, who was a genius. They gave me a catalog, a Sears and Roebuck catalog from the 1940s. And so all the physical movements are sort of based on those silhouettes from those models. And so we worked a lot on the physicality, and I can just remember talking to Peter and just laughing. I mean, the two of us just laughing as we came up with one sort of more wild characteristic about this person. So it was, it was just a joy. It really was.
I remember he gave that to me, gave me the backstory on paper. It was very helpful, yeah. And then you fill in blanks for yourself. The more information he had some images, I think, of things that he showed me. Because the more stuff he could give me in a short period of time was helpful to me.
Well, I created my own personal sort of backstory on Lewis, on this kid who obviously he'd been on the show, on the Truman Show in the movie for his whole life with Truman, grown up together. So you have to imagine that this kid had some very pushy stage mother who was willing to sell her son into this unreality, and sacrifice his childhood for the sake of becoming a television personality. So there's that element to this guy who was an aspiring child actor. And then there's the other reality, which was that he actually did grow up with Truman on the Truman Show, and they became best friends. That was an authentic, I think, real relationship. Because when you're 8 years old, you're not faking your best friend, and sort of, the notion that you're with someone all your life that you can't actually share the secret with must have been very, very difficult for Lewis, to have this burden as a child. So I think that creates a very interesting sort of almost psychotic split in this character who has to be false perpetually to the person who is authentically probably his best friend in the world. And then he, of course, grows up and realizes he's this famous actor, but it's all predicated upon this very deep and profound betrayal, false life that I think must have made him a very complicated man.
I worked on Hannah Gill first, who she was and what she was doing there.
Doesn't she look beautiful, Truman? Well, she still does.
What kind of an actress was she? What were her motivations? What was her agenda? What was her personality? And then worked on Meryl second. So you're an actress playing an actress who's playing a character in a reality TV show, basically. And it was just great fun. I mean, we came up with endless amounts of backstory for each of our characters.
I need to talk to you, but let's go outside.
Oh, sweet, I'd love to, but I'm really late.
And all of this was with Peter's guidance and hints. He would sort of like throw you a diamond of an idea and you just run with it. She was a rabidly ambitious, powerful woman who, when not on the set, my idea was that she had this huge room with an enormous conference table and she was just making deals left, right, and center and making an enormous amount of money. That she had gained so much popularity through the show that she had an enormous amount of power. For example, every time she slept with Truman, she'd get a bump in salary.
Come to bed.
Every time she would do a product placement that was successful, she'd get a bump in salary. So she was constantly wheeling and dealing.
Get one of those new elk rotaries.
You know, it was fun. It was just fun to think about that. And then to layer on top of it someone who's supposed to be caring and sweet and lovely and, you know, it was fun.
Everybody's a little bit more complicated than they seem at first, if you really dig into the sort of backstory of these characters. I came into it with, of course, slightly apprehensive or, I guess, intimidated of this incredible energy, this comic sort of force that existed, and I thought, wow, how's he going to do this dramatic role? I mean, I was myself didn't see it so clearly or know how it worked.
I think the big misconception with a lot of comedians is that they're constantly on all the time, and while I'm sure there are a few, these people work very, very hard. I mean, Jim Carrey works extremely hard. He comes up with idea after idea after idea after idea.
Right from the minute we met, we couldn't stop talking, you know, about the potential of it, because it was extremely provocative material, you know, because you could invent things right off, you know. And I came in and I said, oh, I was thinking, you know, when I came from the hotel, got up this morning, I was cleaning my teeth like you do in the mirror, you know, and I think, you know, it'd be interesting, we could put a scene in with you doing stuff in the mirror. And he got all excited about that. And the next time I came to see him, I think he'd written stuff out on the mirror, you know, in soap, you know, and had invented all this stuff like he was an astronaut and whatever.
The whole Trumania thing is, you know, came from me in my own bathroom drawing faces on the mirror and sticking my face into them like they're little soap masks, you know, and sometimes I would do a whole bodysuit or a big frilly dress or something like with a wig and then put myself into it. Oh, darling, whatever it is, you know. And
I hereby proclaim this planet Trumania.
So we had this report, because I'd begun in sketch comedy at university and had done reviews and even television shows in a kind of Monty Python way. So I had that background, as his was stand-up, but certainly, you know, we had that kind of what if kind of rapport.
he just made me very creative because I was not afraid to bring things to him. You know, once you get past that, when you know somebody's going to, you know, listen to your ideas at least and not go, oh, God, he's got another idea. You know, that kind of thing. It's, you know, Peter welcomed creativity on every level.
He was very passionate and committed and dedicated to doing as good a job as he could do. There was very little sort of ego or star behavior. It was really, I mean, his attitude at the time was really like, hey, I'm in new water here. You guys are all dramatic actors. This is my first time, so help me out. I mean, it wasn't at all sort of condescending or star-like, so that was wonderful.
He was sweet and he was kind and he was, you know, in foreign territory, and I'm sure a little scared at times.
I told you I can't.
You're gonna get both their asses fired, you know that.
Okay, then, let's do it. There's a rainbow, and I, normally do, red, green, and yellow or something like that, and now I've got some purples and some, whatever in there. It's just completing the rainbow, that's all. I mean, we're all a full rainbow of emotions and things like that. Anybody who comes out here and says, I just joke around, I'm not affected by feelings, is a liar. And I guess that's the great thing about this project for me, is I get to show the other colors.
And people talk about acting as being reacting, and he gives you a lot to react to, so it makes your job pretty easy. And I was also sort of amazed at how talented and good he was dramatically. I haven't never seen him like that.